Tonight on The Reno Show, Rowan's here to give us some simple tips to hanging your art and mirrors on your walls. I'll be sharing my top 6 design principles with you. Jen from Interiors Addicts will be revealing the top kitchen trends for 2018. And Mark Cantwell is back to give us the scoop on the Queensland market, as well as Denise Duffield-Thomas talking to us about all things money blocks and how you can get around them. Welcome to The Reno Show. We're here with Rowan, our resident tradie and chippy expert, and we're here to talk about all things wall fasteners. So thanks for coming on, Rowan.
My pleasure.
You're here with us lots and I love it.
Excellent.
So, oh my gosh, how many wall fixings can be available in the market?
Well, how many walls are there? How many types of walls are there? So,
there aren't that many, dude.
Well, they're all vertical in that sense, but there's lots of different coverings that go over walls. So, yeah, these are all specifically designed for purpose, weight, type of material you're fixing to. So, yeah, all those things come into play.
So, can you imagine or even fathom how confusing it can be for so many people just to work out how to hang something on a wall?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when it comes time to dress your wall,
yes,
and you want to hang something up, it's important to know how to do that effectively.
That's right.
without.
So we have 2 arrays. It's like a party kit in front of us. 2 party kits in front of us here. So we have a timber plasterboard actually, fastening kit, and we have a masonry fastening kit.
That's right.
So just in case, I know we have some super experienced renovators that tune into the show, but we also have some people that are truly just starting out. So can you help them out with what technically constitutes masonry?
So brick, block work, FC, cement, sheeting, those things kind of fall in the masonry. Well,
rendered walls.
Rendered walls, yep, that all falls under masonry and requires generally some sort of expanding fixing. So depending on weight, like a Dynabolt or a plug, something like this where you put that into the wall, you pre-drill, put that into the wall, and then as you put your fixing into that, it expands inside. I don't know if you can see that, we'll put it over here on the camera. You pre-drill, put that in the wall, and as you put your fixing into that, that will expand, and that will actually, through friction, will be what holds that in the wall.
So what you're saying is we can't really be using masonry fittings in plasterboard and plasterboard in masonry.
No, it doesn't work that way.
We can't just go, it'll be all right.
No, it won't be all right.
All right.
They're specifically designed for specific purposes, so if you don't use them for design purpose, then almost guaranteed to fail at some
You're not going to
stage.
get the right result.
No, that's right. That's
Okay.
right. And you're going to you may potentially do more damage than you would like.
Okay, so, and you know what, that's a really good point, because it's not only damage to the wall when it comes out. When you think about it, if you're hanging something on the wall, if you're hanging a piece of art, you're hanging family photos, you're hanging like a really big mirror. I've got lots of lovely, beautiful mirrors here at the residence, that it's about, first of all, the piece that's coming off the wall when it hits the floor. It's about the wall. And then the other thing, which I have had a little bit of experience with, is the damage that it does to the floor when it hits it, you know, because there's nothing worse than coming home and you go, wow, I smashed my mirror, there's a hole in my wall and I've completely smashed up my brand new tiles or whatever it might be. So what seems like a really simple little thing can have quite big ramifications.
That's right.
Okay, so let's hit the plasterboard box first.
Okay.
Cool? All right, so these little cool dudes, I actually don't mind these dudes. And the reason I don't mind these, I don't know if you can see them, they're like a little sawtooth and they have little nail holes that go into the side.
That's right.
I don't mind that because it allows the art or the hanging to hang really close to the wall.
Pretty flush, almost a flush fix.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And then this, for me, the next big winner is actually these for a similar reason. I don't know if you guys can see it. Super flush fit, but I'm in love with these.
Raw plugs, how good are they?
So what are they called?
Well, they're raw plugs, or they're normally just named after whatever brand brings them out. Well, I call them raw plugs, but yeah.
So the reason that I'm an epic fan of these...
Or wall mates, wall mates as well. They're commonly referred to as wall mates.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. The reason I'm a huge fan of these is you don't actually have to have a screw that goes into them. You can literally just get your Phillips head, screw that puppy in the wall.
We call that self-tapping. So it'll cut its own thread. So you just mark whereabouts you want to put your hanging, your fixing, and then you start with this and just screw it into the wall. Provided, of course, that you've missed the stud, because if there's a stud behind it, it'll go into the wall till it goes through the sheet, and then it will hit the stud and it won't keep biting.
Okay, so this is a really important conversation. So usually in the old, I remember when my dad used to hang out and he'd go, Lorraine, that's my mum, Laurie, I need to find a stud, and that's where you can have your art, love. And so now this is actually the opposite.
Yeah,
when we're
that's right.
using plasterboard fixings, not timber, because that was when you used to whack a nail in. Now that we have all these epic fixings that actually are designed for plasterboard, you actually need to avoid the studs.
Well, that's in some cases. I mean, you can put a decent screw in if you're going to pick up a stud. It doesn't mean you can't hang where there's a stud. It just means you've got a different.
But just
method
not
of
with
fixing.
these.
Just not with these. That's right.
Okay.
So yeah, but these really good, have pretty good strength hold as well. So you can hang some of the heavier pieces with them. If you want to go to something really heavy like mirrors and things like that, I would suggest you can buy similar to this, but you can buy a full plate that will actually do a full span between the studs.
Okay.
And then you can pick up a stud on either side, and then you can hang to that plate, provided whatever you're fixing is bigger than the plate.
Okay.
And then that will have much more structural rigidity than one of these, obviously. So you can hang
That's
something.
tech talk, isn't it? Structural rigidity.
Yeah, I like to sound impressive. Did that impress you? No. So
And look, for me, all these things in here, I think the most important thing when you're picking up these sorts of things is really reading their specifications. So I'm a much bigger fan of the metal wall mates than I am of the nylon wall mates,
Yep.
to be honest with
Yep.
you. I find that they cut through easier, they snap rarely, whereas I can, maybe it's user error.
I don't think so.
But I do find these metal ones much better. And the big thing, I guess, is reading the packet, checking what their weight range is.
Yeah, always. You won't always find a weight range on some stuff because some manufacturers don't want to indemnify themselves for things falling off the wall. Always better to err on the side of caution. A lot of things will have a weight indication, and you'll generally find that that's massively under what it is capable of carrying, but they've done that just so that you're not going to overload that particular fixing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love
The good thing about these two,
Yeah.
once you're finished with them, you can unscrew them from the wall and you're just left with a little fingernail-sized hole.
Unlike, so you were talking earlier, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember the big old-fashioned butterfly clips as well?
Yeah,
where
like toggle clips.
Yeah. Where you screw them in and it literally blows out a big set of wings behind the wall.
That's right, yep.
Like, to get those out, you just punch them through.
Yeah, push them through. Like the old Dynabolts as well, you just have to cut those off and punch them down.
And you
inside
end
the-
up with like a collection
That's
of
right.
toggles at
Yep,
the bottom of
yep.
the wall.
There's everything's inside the wall cavity when you open it up.
So one of the big changes with these ones, which you were talking about earlier, which was where this expands as you screw into it, is that to get that out of the wall, because it's expanded, it's actually a bit of a mess.
Yeah, you'll get the screw out generally because it would have cut its thread through the plastic fixing, but to
Yep.
get the plastic fixing out of the wall, it can be quite...
And that could be a punch through as well.
It could be, or
But in a masonry wall, that's not much fun.
No, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Okay, so check out some of these. What's your take on these? These are like little...
Well, they're just a little, like a
Like a
pin.
little Martian.
Yeah, like a little pin there that I don't know if you can see that. It's quite sharp, and you just
Yep.
all the holding strength
your
comes
finger
from
in
that. No, thank you very much. You'll probably play a record off that. But that's more designed for, well, that will fit like a masonry or a Besser block, something like that. It'll just cut straight into that and hold. Not a great deal of holding strength in these though, because the depth of the
length
fixing.
of the
Yeah,
pins.
the length of the pins, the depth of the fixing, and then you put a bit of weight on that, and it's just going to have a tendency to pull out of the wall this way as it comes down. So
And sometimes I've used these, even the littler ones. So there's little varieties of all
yeah,
these,
there's
which is
various
really
sizes.
cute.
2 pin, 3 pin, 4 pin.
That's right. And with a vertical rather than a hook, which
Yep.
can be really cool because it can be a beautiful flush mount of a little photo. And sometimes I've used these and gone, wow, that's the coolest thing in the world. And other times, and we were talking about this earlier, other times I've used them, and as I've gone to hammer the pins in, I've literally noticed like talcum powder and cracks forming all around the area.
Mm-hmm.
And on a beautiful big rendered wall that might be in a traditional unit or an Art Deco space, like I literally want to weep.
Yes, and that's what we were talking about before. So just be careful about the type of fixing you use and the application you use it for, because you may do more damage than you do aesthetically pleasing hanging things. So
When we were talking a minute ago about older renders versus newer renders, and you mentioned that there's a big difference in what they're doing with new renders compared to the old renders of the 1920s and 30s and 40s. So what's that about?
well, now that we've got technological advancements in renders and glues, and elasticity is the big thing in renders now. So there's lots of additives that they can put into renders, or that come standard in some renders. Renders. It's talking about vendors now. Renders that allow them to expand and contract much more than the old
brittle super
stuff.
old
that
powdering
just
away.
would over time breaks down, especially when exposed to light and moisture and things like that. So
I like it.
It's much more technology involved now. So the newer renders, much more capable of.
So we've talked about in your masonry toolkit here, sir.
Yes.
We've talked about these little tacks, I guess we could call them.
Yep.
They sort of tack in. We've talked about these expanding wall plugs. So you can buy these as a kit, or you can buy them separately.
Yep.
But then we were like, check out this puppy.
Dun dun dun.
That's like a monster.
Yeah, these are great. I love these because these are well, they've been on the market for a long time now, but I think they're starting to get picked up a bit more. This is basically a masonry screw, for want of a better word. And you would pre-drill a hole, which would be the same size as you can't
As
quite
the
see,
shaft.
as the shank on this. Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. And then clean that hole out, and then you would just screw this in like you would a normal timber
Okay,
screw.
so we're going to reverse it here, because you just totally spoke like a tradie. You went, you're going to drill a hole the size of that shank, and then we're going to
that's
clean that out. Right, so first of all, how do you know how wide the shank is, or the
Well,
shaft?
normally it will tell you on the back of the packet, it will tell you the fixing size that you need, or the drill bit size.
Okay.
So you'd have a hammer drill bit, because you're fixing
Yes.
into masonry, which was different to a metal or a timber bit. It's got the flared hardened steel nose, and when you put your drill setting on hammer,
There you go.
it's actually rotating and
Hammering.
at the same time. So it's using that to drag the waste out.
And
cut
then
it.
this might be a basic question, but I reckon that someone else is asking it. How do you clean out the hole?
Well, there's a number of ways. You can buy a little blowers, like they're little pumps with basically a little tube on the end, but they're generally for larger holes than what you use for this.
Yes?
Standard is just to run your drill. Once you've got the depth of your hole, you just run
Yes.
your drill in and out a couple of times.
And it will eject
and that'll,
the
because
debris.
of the thread in the drill bit,
Yep.
the waste from the back will always be dragged to the front of the hole, and then it'll empty out.
So, you know what I may have done in the past?
Well, yeah,
Doesn't always work.
It's a trap for young players.
It is a trap for young players. It's like a lovely coat of makeup and in your eyes.
And it's
if you-
fine. Look, it's fine to blow the holes out with using your mouth. Just close your eyes before you do it.
I'll wear PPE.
That's all
All
I
right,
say.
all
Yeah,
right.
well, you should have. If you're drilling into masonry, you probably should have some eye protection on anyway.
Absolutely.
As well as ear protection.
Absolutely. All right. So what else are you going to tell me about that? There's some really cool things on that I noticed.
Yes, so this has got a really coarse thread, which means it's really wide and open, as opposed to something like this, which you can see if I can hold those. I don't know if you can pick that
Yes.
up on the camera. There's just there's a finer thread.
Yes.
And this is very coarse. And because this one is a masonry screw, that thread, and you've drilled a hole that's the same size as the shank, so the thread's actually going to cut, the screw is actually going to cut its own thread.
Yes.
So this coarse thread that's around the screw is actually, you probably can't see it, but it's notched. It's
Like a serrated knife.
It's like a serrated knife. So it will actually cut its own thread when you go in. And the benefit of these too is, when you finish with them, you can just unscrew that, basically. It'll come out of the
And
wall.
it's not going to leave like a massive hole
No.
like we're talking about with the
No,
plugs.
well, potentially, like one of these can do. Yeah,
and
that's
the
right.
best part is you can slip one of these really simple hooks onto it.
Yep.
And hey presto.
Hey, presto, and you'll get a flush fitting too. So because that's a countersunk screw into the countersunk hook.
Love
And
it.
it'll fish pretty flush with the wall, if you can see
So that would be your pick in the masonry
In
world?
a masonry, yeah, I love these. I really love
And
these. I
this-
use those even in big bolts as well when I'm screwing things to
So
floors.
here's my pick in the plasterboard world.
Yeah,
And there's your pick
that's my pick.
in the masonry world.
Yep.
There we have it. What seems so simple, what seems as simple as pie hanging a piece of art, or a mirror or a photo, you really do need to have a look at your substrates. You need to look at what you're fixing into. You need to look at how long you actually might want it there before you change it, and the damage to the wall
That's right.
that you might be causing when you pop it in. But there is so many phenomenal things on the market nowadays. And thanks to Rowan, resident chippy and resident expert in all things tradie, you now have a much better understanding of all things wall fixing.
We hope.
Thanks, Rowan.
No worries.
Hey team, it's Naomi Finlay here. Are you wanting to style your property for sale, or are you looking to connect with people but unsure how to go about it using design principles? Is there a particular theme you want to use but you're worried it won't work or it will be too niche? Well, worry not, because I'm here today and I wanted to share with you a few tips of how you can put the right design principles into practice and get it right. So, how on earth do you style a property to suit everybody's taste? Well, you know what? You follow some key design principles. That's how you do it. And you don't have to have a degree in interior design to set up a well-styled home. All you need to do is keep an eye out for certain elements that you can make sure you leave the potential buyers drooling over in your property. And that is exactly why I wanted to share with you these 6 elements today. 6, exactly, 6 to be exact. Okay, so the first one is size. The first one's, it's all about a very important design principle of size. Now, most of your potential buyers, they won't be walking in on inspection day with a measuring tape and meticulously calculating the size of the rooms unless they're coming to see what size cot they need to fit into the third room. And in that case, congratulations, because they're already picturing themselves living in that space. So you've done a really good job. But what most buyers will be doing when they walk in to measure a space, they won't be doing it with numbers. They'll be automatically looking at the space and picturing their kids living in it, or their family and their friends coming over for a barbecue. How many people will fit in here comfortably? Are the kids going to have enough space to keep their toys in a room? And what about when they're a little older? Will the beds be large enough? Will we be able to get in enough space into those bedrooms, or will it look cramped? Those are the sorts of measurements that your buyers will be making. So you need to think about how your buyers will react to each space. Because at the end of the day, a 3x3 bathroom means nothing to most buyers. It's all about how the space compares to the rest of the property and the functions that they're going to be using it for. That's what matters to them. Now, the second one is scaled. This is the second element. So again, it's not so much about real measurements as it is about the feel of the space. It's not about how accurate the real renovation is compared to initial drawings even. Think about it this way instead. How do the light fittings and the fireplace and the couch and the rug and the coffee table all fit together in the living room? Are they complementing each other? So this element can be a bit tricky to get right, if I'm going to be honest. So that's the thing that I want you to think about before you rush into it. Think about the size and shape of the room and what will fit in nicely into that space. There are 2 ends of the scale here. On one hand, we have picking the wrong thing that can make everything else in the room seem small and insignificant. On the other hand, picking something that's maybe too big or too matchy-matchy can make the whole place just look boring. All right, now the third element, the third principle is proportion. So proportion, it is similar to scale because it relies on looking at how the elements in the room relate to each other. But there's one main difference between the two. While scale compares objects in the room that already have a defined size, proportion looks at everything as a whole. Perhaps the living room is pretty long and narrow. The elements that you can add into there can either emphasise the length of the space or make it appear less so. For example, using a mirror and a wider coffee table can help make that room look more proportioned and less narrow. It's almost as if you're correcting the space to make it appear more attractive. Now, element number 4, this is the 4th design principle and it's all about balance. I want you to imagine you're walking a tightrope. How do you make sure you don't fall off? That's right, you keep both sides balanced on your body, right? So this is exactly the same as using balance in a property. This is literally keeping the right and left-hand sides of the space symmetrical, and it's something we see a lot in traditional homes. So it's a great way, for example, with a square space, to be having an armchair either side of a focal point to give that symmetry and balance to a space, which creates comfort and really helps add up that whole traditional, homely, welcoming feel. Now, I know I said earlier that you don't want to be matchy-matchy, right? But there's a really big difference between creating a room where everything is matchy in a gross, tacky way and creating a room where everything flows in a beautiful, balanced, symmetrical manner. Now, colour. Colour is our fifth design principle that we're going to talk about, and it is so powerful. It can create an emotional connection with a buyer, and yet it can be one of the easiest ways to turn them off as well. And because colour is so subjective, everyone has different tastes, it can be a real make or break for particular buyers. So for example, green can be a great way to bring the outside world in, but at the same time, if you don't choose the right hue and shade, it can be a fantastic way to turn your buyers off. So where do you go? What do you do? The most helpful thing you can do here is take a look at a colour wheel. This way you'll be able to see which colours complement each other and keep an eye on the long-lasting trends and avoid fads, as well as avoiding the colours of red, orange and purple when renovating. Now, number 6, the last but certainly not least design principle is light. You could have all of the other 5 elements and designed down pat and it looking absolutely amazing. A gorgeous, amazing living space. Imagine neutral hues and navy touches, and the whole space looks absolutely luxurious, except it isn't lit correctly. And none of these design elements are going to be able to shine to their fullest potential without lighting. So lighting is so important, and it's probably one of the easiest elements to use and enhance a space. So there are 2 main types of lighting. There is a natural and a man-made. So look at the current light sources you already have in a space. There'll be light coming from the windows, from the doorways, maybe from a skylight, lamps or pendants. Do they highlight the best features of the room, or are they drawing attention to the wrong things? So think about how the space will be used and then use lights to highlight that. Is there enough light to be able to enjoy some quiet time away from the hustle and bustle of the rest of the space in a reading nook? If so, utilise that. Perhaps pop a soft floor lamp near it to emphasise the function of the space. And likewise, where there's too much light or the wrong kind of light, you'll need to think about how you can correct that. If there's too much harsh afternoon light, or maybe the LEDs are too bright, you need to think about how you can filter, tone down, dim, or block some of that out. So there you have it, 6 ways, 6 design elements, 6 design principles you can utilise and start to incorporate to make sure that your final space looks and feels perfect for potential buyers. Have you ever dreamed of renovating your kitchen and been paralysed by the barrage of trends and options that are available to you? Well, I have someone here that can give you the edge. Tonight I have with us Jen Bishop from Interiors Addict. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
And we're here to talk about the kitchen trends for 2018. So you're very welcome. Tell us what you've got, Jen.
Oh, well.
Where to start?
That's it. I think in terms of something that's a little bit different that I think will be more popular this year, we're starting to see some interesting colours in cabinetry. So colour full stop. It's quite a
Colour in general.
Thing. Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's always going to be people that love the white gloss kitchen.
Yeah.
Hugely popular.
Do we have to put that word in?
But it's the best selling.
I know.
Didn't say it was the nicest, but
Okay, all right.
yeah.
So the best selling
But,
is white gloss.
we are starting to see different colours of cabinet fronts, and that's
Okay.
not just that the
Are we
high
talking
end.
yellows and purples and
No,
oranges?
we're talking navy, which you know I love. And recently I've seen colours like a kind of champagne gold,
Okay.
which sound a bit full on and a bit scary, but it actually can work really well if you perhaps just have one lot of overhead cupboards and
Yep.
then
Or an underbench run on your island.
exactly, and
Yep.
or exactly, just on the island. I think that's a really nice way to incorporate some of those things, and they can look amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It just takes a bit of bravery, I think.
All right, so colour is number one, colour in cabinetry.
Colour, yeah. In terms of something that's quite new, and then I think everything else that I think is going to be big this year is something that's probably started last year and
Okay.
has shown it's going to last.
Stay around.
Yeah, so that would be things like the bench tops, the thinner the better, basically.
Hallelujah. It's music to my
Yeah,
ears.
no more
Streamlines,
400,
simples,
600,
no
none of
more
that.
600 wedges.
No, that
Lovely.
doesn't, bigger is not better.
Did you hear that? Bigger is not better.
Yeah, so you're very thin bench tops.
Even with a beautiful shadow line
Yeah,
underneath the bench
amazing.
top, just gorgeous,
Yeah.
with a contrasting laminate colour behind it on the shadow line. That can just
Yeah.
completely set off, and it shows that attention to detail, doesn't it? That
Exactly.
real bespoke,
Yeah, and
beautiful look.
and it's very small but really effective.
See, bigger's not better, small and
Yeah.
effective. I think
Yeah.
everyone's getting the hint here.
And I think another thing that's probably come over from last year is the statement tap.
Yes.
So, you know, taps are not an afterthought anymore. Taps are like an amazing, beautiful piece of jewellery in your kitchen.
Talking about jewellery, I've been in Jen's new kitchen and I'm going to extend the jewellery conversation from taps to sinks.
Yes, I like the bling in my kitchen, but
She has a gold
a
sink.
gold sink, gold taps, gold handles, which sounds really over the top, but in the context of everything else being very simple, I think works.
We'll show you a photo. We'll show you a
Yeah.
photo. It actually really works.
Yeah, so but you do have to be careful not to sort of go over the top. But you know, having one amazing and possibly quite expensive tap in an otherwise quite budget kitchen can make, you know, really take it to the next level.
So that's that whole hero styling, isn't it?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
high-low, using a hero piece to really elevate the space and then backfilling. It's kind of like I talk about it in gardening all the time, about choosing like a beautiful feature, reasonably mature tree and backplanting with seedlings if you need to. You know, and you can still get such an amazing effect.
Yep.
So we have tapware, we have colour
Yes.
and thin bench tops. They be your top
Absolutely.
three in kitchens?
I think so, yeah.
I love it. So there you go. If you're renovating your kitchen, you have some top trends to investigate and work out how they fit with you, how they fit with your space, and if and when you want to incorporate any of them in. So thanks so much, Jen. We'll see you next time. All right, what about our good old Gold Coast and Brizzy?
Yeah, Gold Coast and Brizzy. So I'll start with Gold Coast, and you know I speak to a lot of agents there, particularly those who run businesses that are heavy into the off-the-plan apartments.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
that going on.
Oh, there is. Like, you know, Gordon and Archie Douglas, a couple of my mentors, now in their 70s, they started PRD up there in the 70s.
Yes.
And they did a lot of
Yeah, I
buildings.
wasn't born then.
So they did a lot of project marketing right through that 70s through to 2005. Things really cooled up there around the time of the GFC. A lot of developments ended up in receivership.
Yes.
And then so those buildings or those development sites were being bought back at pennies on the dollar, basically.
Yeah.
That's an exaggeration, but they were certainly bought at like a very low multiple of what they originally traded for. And they sort of had to really grind it out to get more sales to get these things off the ground.
Yes.
It was about sort of 1 to 2 years ago that sort of the last of those receivership sales started washing through.
Yes.
A lower percentage of them were receivership. And you started seeing a lot more purchasing, particularly from the Asian market.
Yes.
Loving
absolutely.
the Gold Coast, loving that Australian
Loving
weather.
the lifestyle.
Yeah, and they would literally walk through town, go to these display suites, see an apartment and be buying one. Foreign Investment Review Board has really affected that now. It's slowed it
Yep.
up again.
Yep.
With the stamp duties getting up to around 8%. of purchase price. It's not as lucrative to move capital out of China now into Australia, but some people are still seeing it if they qualify for the guidelines.
Yes.
That it's worth their while to do that because, for what you're seeing over there with inflation rates, for the slightly difficult political environment you've got over there,
Yep.
In the way that their government's set up, some people are saying, look, I still want to be part of Australia's economy and
Yes.
potentially come and live over here.
And
all the
you're
stuff
still
with it.
noticing that there's a difference now in the market to a couple of years ago?
Yeah, well, they've got the Commonwealth Games on Gold Coast.
Huge.
That's a huge economic
Yeah.
driver. The light rail project has been a success. There's a bit of
Yes.
pain when it was going through, but now it's there. Like, it's getting really well utilised. And it's just so great for moving locals about as well as the tourists.
Yep.
It's connecting up all of those, little centres like your Broadbeach and your Gold Coast
And your
then
Mermaid
back to
Beach
Burleigh
and absolutely.
Yeah, where it was before. It was like quite difficult to get from one to the other, and there was
Unless you had a
time.
car.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Gold Coast is definitely having a good recovery. We're seeing that in both the housing market and in the apartment market. And again, that probably one of the challenges it does have is that the planning guidelines are so open there that it's very easy to build another tower of apartments.
Yes.
So it comes back to the age-old thing of like location. If you're getting something in a location that's really hard to replicate,
Yes.
then that's a good one.
Yep.
If you're in a location where you can see that there's
Literally
like
towers
knockdowns that
everywhere.
way, yeah. And it's not an exclusive part of beach, and it's not exclusively close to the best part of the CBD.
Yes.
Then that's going to be something that could easily be replicated, therefore stifle the growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that ripple onto Brizzy as well?
Well, it's probably,
Brisbane,
Brizzy's
yes.
its own thing. So Brizzy's its own capital city,
Yep.
whereas Gold Coast, it's more of a sort of 500,000 sort of populace,
Yes.
more like the Newcastle size. So Brisbane, it's one of those things where at the moment it's gone through a little bit of an oversupply in apartments in certain areas. But that supply is getting gobbled up by population growth. So people
Okay.
freak out about this. They say oversupplied. Now, is it
It's
being...
like one of those scary words. Over.
Yeah, and I'm talking to people who are advising and moving a lot of capital around in Brizzy, and they're talking about this oversupply and how much drama's been added to it by a lot of the time media companies.
No.
that are possibly based out of Melbourne, possibly based out of Sydney. So Brizzy's due for some more growth again. It has been very open planning guidelines again, so lots of apartments have been built. But with the population growth that's going on, like there might be 12, there might be 18 months of oversupply.
Yes.
But what happens is that means better deals for buyers.
Absolutely.
You can negotiate really hard with the developers. You can get inclusions thrown in. You can get rental guarantees. You can get stamp duty refunded to you in cash. Like there's all of these opportunities when the market's a little bit, I suppose, spoiled for choice.
Yes.
But 18 months from now, when the population has grown at the projected rates,
Yes.
because the jobs are there, everything's good in that regard, all of a sudden there's a little bit of a shortage, and you don't know when it's hit the bottom until it starts going up.
That's
and then
right.
The deals
You never
aren't
know
on
when it's
anymore.
going to turn.
That's right. So the deals aren't on anymore. The projections are good. What's working well in apartments there is boutique buildings.
Yes.
In good locations, close to the CBD, but sort of 50 and under apartments.
Do you know what's really interesting? The key that I've picked up there is things not being able to be mass replicated.
Yes.
Like that's the couple of times I've heard that about it. If you're going to be looking at something, make sure it's not something that can just be mass replicated and dilute your impact.
Yes, exactly. So, and you're seeing that with housing stock as well, of course. So townhouses are becoming very popular.
Yes.
Getting them close to the city, close to the river. But those Queenslanders, those classic Queenslanders.
Oh my gosh, the Queenslanders.
Yeah,
My dream house.
Oh, they're great. And they're a great reno proposition.
Fantastic reno.
There's some really villagey sort of environments in around Brisbane, just outside the city.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, so those are the ones that we're seeing that there's ongoing demand. The
Yep.
auctions are strong.
Yes.
Brisbane is a market where you do see auctions, and it's a good method of sale. They've got different legislation about how auctions work, which we'll talk to in another
We
episode.
will, I'm sure. Very important.
But it definitely has been some green shoots in the good areas. So the tip on Brisbane is, pick blue chip and pick somewhere that's not easy to replicate.
Okay, cool. On the couch with us next, we have Denise Duffield Thomas from Denise dt.com. So Denise, welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks.
Very welcome back. Now, we're going to be talking tonight with Denise about money blocks.
Yeah.
And most importantly, how money blocks can really, really get in your way on a renovation project. Whether you're flipping or whether you're staying in the house, money blocks can really kind of screw with you.
Absolutely. So most of the work I do is with entrepreneurs on their money blocks
Okay.
that hold them back from making money in their business. But the truth is everyone has money blocks
We
in some
all
way.
have them.
Especially when you're trying to do something a little bit out of the norm. So what I find is with a lot of people who want to
What do you mean by out of the norm?
Okay, so people who want to be professional renovators,
Okay.
generally, maybe your friends and family are kind of like, are
The
you
poo-poo is.
crazy? Can you really make money out of this? Like, this isn't
Yeah.
the right time, all this kind of stuff. So you might have found that you want a different way of making money for yourself and your family. Maybe you want to do it for more freedom and flexibility in
Yep.
your life, to get rid of the 9 to 5, whatever. And you will find that a lot of people don't really understand that. And you'll get a lot of people trying to talk you out of it, which in turn can activate your money blocks even more and kind of almost paralyze you a little bit from taking the action that you need
Well,
to
it gives
take.
power to your money blocks, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It kind of like supersizes them on steroids because you're like, oh my gosh, someone externally is validating them.
Absolutely. And what I find is that when most people are in their 9 to 5 job,
Yeah.
their money blocks aren't as apparent, right? Because they are
'Cause
paid
you're not
a
pushing
salary.
them.
No, exactly. You're paid a regular salary. You don't have to think like, am I going to get paid tomorrow? Am I worthy of getting my paycheck? You just get it. And similarly, if you're in a business where you're selling something for somebody else, you don't have to set your prices. You don't have to have money
You
conversations.
don't have to say, I'm worth it.
No, absolutely. So
The
what
award says that for you.
It does.
Yeah.
But then when you're trying to do something for yourself, you find yourself having money conversations all the time. And that can be really difficult for people, especially if you are wanting to negotiate prices.
Yep.
You have to then, set your pricing if you're flipping or you're selling.
Or what
And
you're
it
willing
brings
to
up-
pay your trades.
Absolutely.
Or what you're willing to invest in a piece of furniture or tiles for the wall. There can be that, oh my God, can I really spend that on this when there's starving children in the world? Or
Oh my
when
God,
I never
exactly.
had it as a child? Or all those sorts of things. What have been some of your money blocks in your property journey?
So I
That's a
think,
bit personal,
no,
isn't it?
It is. One of my primary money blocks that comes up everywhere, it doesn't matter if it's in business or if it's for something like that
Yeah.
or a personal thing, is you have to work really hard to make money.
Well, it can't be easy.
No, it can't. And it's so deeply ingrained not only in our society, but generally most families have that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you think of, how maybe your parents or your grandparents earned their money, it was generally, very hard work. And there's
They
not
grafted, didn't they?
Yes.
They grafted
And
for their
so,
money.
Doing something where maybe you do a couple of renos a year and you can make, a big chunk of money,
Yep.
it kind of feels a little bit against the grain,
Feels like you're cheating.
especially if you love it.
Yeah, I'm cheating because I love it and I can make heaps of money doing it.
Absolutely. And you've heard people say things like, I love this so much I would do it for free,
Yeah.
right? Which is a really interesting block in itself, because isn't it okay to make money doing something you love?
Which is interesting, isn't it? Because it goes all the way back to the root of we have to work and, we shouldn't enjoy work.
Yeah, it's a grind, or you have to, it's something that you have to go out and do that you don't want to do. And if you love renovation so much you would do it for free, and you have that belief, that can sometimes bring
Bite
about
you.
some bad situations where you actually don't make much money out. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely. And so what are some of the biggest things that you've seen people do wrong? Not wrong, but what are some of the biggest things you've seen people, guess, get caught up on in regard to their money blocks when they're renovating? Is it around paying trades? Is it around having vision? They won't even allow themselves to have the vision of what their house could be.
Well, you know what's so funny, and this is true for almost every entrepreneur I've ever met, is that thing of it's cheaper for me to do it myself. I've done it myself in my business where I'm like,
I've done it
I could
myself.
make a graphic,
Sure I can.
or
I can take my own video.
exactly, and it's the same with renovation. My mum, by the way, who I think you have met, Vicky,
Yeah.
whenever we watch a renovation show, she goes, I could do tiling. I go, Mum, you could not freaking do tiling, and I do not want you to tile anything in my house. She goes,
You could, but it'd
"I
be
could do
shit."
that." It would be, let's face it would be shit, right? So there's something there about not valuing our time, and also sometimes not valuing what other people can do so quickly and easily for you.
And amazingly.
Absolutely. So you've got to really value yourself and know that it's okay to leverage your time by bringing in experts who can do it better than you.
Absolutely. And if it is something you really want to do and it's something that you actually want to be involved in the process, because for a lot of people it's cathartic, you know, that they get to have that process of renovating and transforming. There's that transformation. I think it's also about then arming yourself. You know, arming yourself and investing in yourself rather than kind of dispelling that and allowing yourself to fully step into that space rather than just play on the outskirts, really, like your mum.
Exactly.
She's playing from the sidelines.
She is. So beware of the false economy mindset where you think it would be quicker and cheaper and easier to do it yourself when it's not, generally.
Yeah.
And that's true too when you go to sell and you want to stage your house. So many times I have watched a show and I thought, I could be a home stager. I couldn't. But, you know, hiring Gnomes' team to come in and do it for us has meant we have saved so much time and energy, because Mark has been like, well, we can just pick up our couch from our own house and take it over to our rental property. I'm like, we could, but
we're not.
Yeah, let's not. The other block too is the sunk cost fallacy.
What's that?
Yes. So
come on.
So many people do this again in all sorts of businesses. It's like, well, I've already started down this track. I have to continue.
Yes.
Because I've invested time or money into it.
Yes.
Even
or
though
I've
it's the
set
wrong
my
one.
intent and people know it.
Exactly. So I think, and you would have so much more, you know, experience around this. But you know, it's like, if you know it's not a good investment, even if you've put some money into it, stop digging. Stop digging.
Stop digging the hole that you're in.
Yes, exactly. But that's such a block, because it's like, well, I've invested money, I have to keep on going. And we know that there's some investments, there's just no more money that you can throw at it that would make it better.
Okay. So no matter how much you throw at it, you're actually just digging.
Yes.
You're not filling the hole, you're actually digging the hole deeper to get out of.
Exactly. And that's, you know, in one of our other shows, we talked about how I bought a house that wasn't the right house.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that was like, well, I'm just going to have to suck it up.
That's a really big thing to suck up.
It was. And I thought, I'll just live there for like 10 years and then I'll go for my dream house. And I had to be really brave and go, you know what? It's not going to happen. And I remember breaking the news to my husband too and just going, you know that house we just bought? It's not the right one.
We're not staying in it.
Yeah, it's not the right one. And we had engaged architects, we had, you know, spoken to so many people. And I thought, there was a part of me that was like, I don't want to let all those people down. And that's the sunk cost fallacy. It wasn't even just the money, it was the time and energy that other people had invested in that. And I felt like I couldn't say no.
And that can really happen on a renovation project, because you do have a team. You may have your tradespeople, your dad might have come over and helped you dig the holes for the posts for the deck. It's like, I have to put the deck in that spot now, even though I know it's not the right spot because my dad helped me dig the holes.
Totally.
You know? And it's like, I can't change it, even though I know it's in the western sun and it's a metre too far to one side, because my dad helped me dig the holes.
Absolutely.
You know? And so I think they're important. So there's a couple of examples about how your money blocks and more importantly, how your beliefs around money can really affect and interact with your reno project, whether it's literally to sell or whether it's your own.
Yes, absolutely. So the last thing I just want to say, everyone has money blocks. And if you've never heard of that concept before, it is just worth looking at what beliefs that you have around money, particularly around the work hard to make money block, because I think that's the biggest one that can derail a lot of people from really creating something in their life that could create a lot of freedom and abundance for them.
And having fun at the same time, because that's okay.
That's totally okay. You're allowed to make money doing something that you love.
Perfect way to end. All right, we'll see you next time on the show. Next time on The Reno Show, I'm revealing the 4 types of tradies you need in your renovation team. Rowan will show you how you can choose the right type of window for your home, and naturopath entrepreneur Tammy Guest will give us her tips on staying fit and healthy during a renovation. Marissa from Beautifully Organised is here to tell us how you can get your whole family organised when renovating your kitchen. And Australia's leading property market analyst is giving us his hot tips for where you should be looking to buy your next home. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel to receive weekly renovation and lifestyle inspiration. If you have a question about today's show, leave a comment below and we'll be sure to get straight back to you.